Have you ever had a conversation that ended hours or even days ago, but your brain is still replaying it? You're analyzing what you said, what you meant, what you should have said, and no matter how many times you run it back, you don't feel better. You feel more unsure. The loop is exhausting and it's incredibly common. Here's what most people don't realize. Overthinking isn't helping you communicate better. It's keeping you stuck in the overthinking loop. So today we're going to break it down. Why your brain does this, why it feels so hard to stop, and most importantly, what to do in the moment when your mind starts replaying. So you can move on with clarity instead of second guessing yourself. Welcome to Communication Skills for Working Women. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Rose May. Do you find yourself second guessing or avoiding conversations because you're worried about being misunderstood?
You're not alone. On this show, we're sharing tangible tools for assertiveness, emotional resilience, and real-life communication wins and fails.
Let's sharpen our communication together. If you're listening to this and thinking, this is exactly what I struggle with, we want to ask you to do two simple things. First, share this episode with a friend who overthinks their conversations too, which could probably be all your friends. And secondly, leave a review. That's how more women find this podcast and get support with the exact same patterns you're working through.
Today, I'm going to share a story, but I have a question for Rosemary before I
Oh,
share my story. Yeah,
we
here we
didn't even
go.
start yet, dude. Okay, go ahead.
Do you overthink things?
Do I overthink things? I have probably six conversations that I replay in my head, sometimes regular, I don't know if I'll say regularly, but they come back to me all the time. One is when I said something that was probably super offensive to someone. And then I wrote a sorry note like 10 years later, and she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. But that conversation replays in my head. I don't know that I would say like I overthink conversations, but I do have conversations where I'm like, that was the stupidest thing I ever said in my entire life. And they probably think I'm an idiot.
So you have a few that just keep coming back to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
All right, I'm going to share a moment that I had just so you all know. Like, I like to write all my stuff out and just read it out, but I'm going to just try to say it this time. I was meeting with my therapist a couple weeks ago, and I shared the story with her. And at the end of the story, she said, "Do you see how you kind of switched your opinion and you then agreed with that other person who you initially disagreed with?" I just was like, yeah, and we moved on. But even throughout the session, I was like, that's not actually what happened. And I actually didn't agree with them, but it doesn't matter. Like, I kept telling myself, like, it doesn't matter. In the end, it doesn't matter. It really didn't directly relate to what we were working through. But even since that session, it just like is in the back of my head. It'll just come up. I'll be like washing dishes and it just comes up, or I'm driving somewhere and what comes up is actually, and we're going to talk more about this. I want her to understand that that's not what I meant. That's not what happened. So it's not even so much that I'm replaying the conversation, it's that I want her to know that that's not what I meant, which is part of getting in that overthinking loop, which we will get into later. My brain just kept going and replaying and replaying. And I have to just say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I know. That's actually really hard to say it doesn't really matter. And it kind of sucks because I think both of us share this where, well, I'm sure most people share this where you want to feel like you were being understood. And
Right.
like a therapy session is so vulnerable. And I mean, you really are like sharing so much that is deeply personal. And you also you want to be seen and you want to be understood in that interaction. And so I could see why that would play over and over and over again.
Hmm.
And also, there are so many things, yeah, so many random places like doing the dishes whatever, where it comes back to your mind. And it's not a terrible thing, it's just not helpful.
Right. It's just not helpful. And I want you to know that my therapist is amazing. And I would, if anyone lived in the state of Maryland, I would suggest her to you. Um, and so I don't want it to come across at all in that like she wasn't hearing me. It went back to I just wasn't clearly communicating.
Yeah.
So, all
Yeah,
right.
that stinks.
It,
Well,
it does.
it stinks because yeah, it stinks for so many reasons, but I think like one thing that's important to hit on is the fact that our brains do this because they're designed to do this. This is
Yeah.
a protective factor. Our brains were trained many, many, many moons ago to recognize danger when there's danger. And unfortunately, sometimes our brains don't know the difference between, being misunderstood in a therapy session and like, what did I do last time that prevented me from, I don't know, being attacked by a wild animal or whatever. Like your brain just focuses on the things that it needs to keep you safe. And judgment or misunderstanding can feel really unsafe. So your brain just
Right.
focuses on that. I mean, kind of sucks, but also really good thing that we have this protective factor
Right.
in our,
Right. And
you
when you're
know.
in a therapy session too, like as you said earlier, you're in a vulnerable state. You are open to a lot
Yeah.
of things. And so like, had I been sharing the conversation casually with my husband and had he responded in that way, I may not have hooked onto it that same way and gotten into
Hmm.
that loop
Hmm.
because I wouldn't have been in that state of vulnerability. And I probably would have just responded to him immediately and been like, no, 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 that's not
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
meant.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm interested. In preparing this, I'm like, I have thought about, do I bring it back up to her? So I
To your
kind of want to,
therapist,
yeah, I kind of want to circle back to that question at the end
she's
of
gonna say
going
the
through
same
this.
thing that my thank you note lady said. She's gonna say, I don't even remember that. No, she won't.
This
No, she
woman
won't.
remembers
She remembers
everything.
probably every detail. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
blows my mind. I'm like, are you
Uh,
taking notes the whole entire time we are talking? Because
that's
I do
funny.
coaching and I am not, she's incredible. Anyway,
That's cool.
so let's get into like the teaching part of it, and then maybe we'll circle back to this question, or maybe we won't if I bring it up. But all right, we're going to break this down into some things that you can actually use because when we're aware, it helps us. It helps us make decisions if we're going to continue, if we're going to take action, if we're going to stop, it just helps us. We need real-time interruption tools, what to do when this is happening. The first step is recognizing what's happening while it's happening. So, not later, not when we're spiraling, but really in the moment. Because when you don't name it, your brain treats the thoughts as important. So, how I was saying, like, this doesn't really matter, that's naming it in the moment, right? So, if we don't name it, your brain keeps going, like, we need to solve this problem. But in reality, there's nothing to solve. And when you notice the replaying start, you can say out loud or in your head, this is the overthinking loop. I'm replaying. I am not problem solving. That simple label creates distance. You're not stopping the thoughts yet. You are just stepping out of them.
Yes, and that's a skill that we call cognitive diffusion in therapy. Is just creating that space and that distance between your thought and the internalization part of us that really feels like we did something wrong and we must have done, and that all of these things that happen during the overthinking loop. So once you've named that loop, the next step is to separate like what actually happened from what your brain is adding because those are not the same thing. Our brains fill in gaps with assumptions like they probably thought or that sounded weird. But those are stories, they're not facts. Remember, feelings are not facts. And when you treat them like facts, you keep the loop going. So use this simple reset. What do I actually know happened? Some examples might be I said my opinion. They nodded. The conversation ended. That's it. Then notice what your brain is adding. Your brain is probably adding something like, oh, they didn't like it. and then label that part as the story, not the facts. This is how we move from emotional reaction to grounded clarity because now we have an objective perspective of what actually happened.
Such an important approach. The last thing that you can do is to close the loop. Give your brain an ending point. Here's what most people don't do. They never close the loop. They just keep analyzing. As you can tell, I haven't fully closed the loop in my story. I'm still kind of analyzing. Because your brain thinks if I keep thinking, I'll feel better. But the opposite happens. More thinking equals more doubt. Oh my gosh. Amen to this in so many aspects of our lives. If we can't figure something out, stop thinking about it. Just take action or go do something different. Go serve somebody. Go text somebody. Think about something else.
You can engage in a different activity. There's
Yes.
so many, doing something physical can often be really helpful.
Yes. So, how do you do this? You need to give your brain a clear stopping point. You need to say, I've thought about this enough. There's nothing else to solve here. I'm choosing to move on. Then redirect your attention physically if possible, like Rosemary just said. Stand up, switch tasks, engage in something else. This is the part people skip. They want to feel done. Like I keep telling myself, this doesn't matter anymore because it doesn't feel done to me. But here's the key. You don't feel done. You decide you're done. Like I can just decide this doesn't actually matter.
What am I thinking? My brain is saying like two different things and it's like it hasn't caught up yet. Okay. Um yes, you decide you're done. And if you feel like this process is maybe more difficult for you than kind of how we're naming, that's probably normal. So, a couple things. One, don't forget that it's really important to practice this. This is not something that happens overnight. This actually requires practice and it's not going to look flawless every single time. It may look flawless like never. And it's something that we can practice to help us get better at. Number two is if it's so difficult that it's distressing, go see a therapist and then not replay the conversation that you had with her. Just kidding. No, go see a therapist and get some professional assistance so you can figure
Mhm.
out kind of what works for you because this may not work for you. Those are all the thoughts that were just circling in my mind at the same
Those are great thoughts. And
time.
then, well, and even just the go get the therapist, because sometimes that replaying can be an indicator that there is something deeper going on. And
Absolutely.
sometimes it's a skill. And what we're talking about is skill building.
Yeah.
And so you should be able to apply the things we talked about and see some changes if it's a skill. And so if you
Yes.
do that and you're still really struggling with it, that's when you go like, okay, I need
Oh,
professional
yeah.
help.
Yes. And there are so many professionals who are willing to help. So
Mhm.
let's bring this all together. When you find yourself replaying a conversation, first name it. This is the overthinking loop. Second, separate the facts from the story. What do I actually know happened? And third, close the loop. I've thought enough about this. I've
And
thought about this enough. Words.
either way, it works.
Yes.
All right. And here's the shift that we really want to hold on to. Overthinking is not helping us improve. It is trying to protect us. We don't need protection in that moment. We really need closure. So here's what we want to all experiment with. The next time we catch ourselves replaying a conversation, use this exact sequence. Tell ourselves, this is the overthinking loop. What do I actually know? And then answer that. And then state, I'm done thinking about this. And then move on purpose. Go do another activity, go do something different. That's how you start building trust within yourself when you can move into that wise mind, think through these things, and continue to move forward.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you found this helpful, please share it with an overthinking friend and leave a review. Until next time, think clearly and listen bravely. When you feel confident in your communication, everything changes.
We'd love to hear your wins, failures, and insights on Instagram at Communication Skills for Women. Leave a review and connect with us.
Until next time, speak clearly and listen bravely.